Good late Tuesday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center giving you the latest information on what's happening with that flood potential across parts of our area. It's just something to kind of keep our eyes on here for sure as we're looking at our region. You do see a flat flood watch as we're looking off toward the west there, toward some of those Tallahassee counties. In fact, in toward that lime or green type color, and then the darker green type color there as we're getting closer toward the I-75 corridor. That's a flood watch, and it's actually a flood watch in play for parts of our area down toward West Central Florida as well. Talking about Levy, that's remaining in effect here as well. So something we're going to watch for sure as we look ahead in toward that timeline here. Just watching that rainfall potential really persist around here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our radar scope technology real quick and try to get an idea of where some of this action is from a different perspective here. So just again watching things carefully with that flooding potential here around. Just got to be mindful of that. And I have the Moody Air Force Base radar pulled up over here. So let's go ahead and take this full now. You'll be able to get an idea of what's going on here with some of this rainfall in toward the region. Kind of get an idea here as we'll zoom around and show you what's happening and get down here towards some of those different neighborhoods even with this. So again, just watching things in the weather situation with the rainfall. You see some of the heaviest rain there in the McCulloch County right now. Crawfordville, St. Mark's on up pretty well even from the radar there at Moody. So again, just gotta keep our eyes on things as the situation does persist here. I just gotta continue to monitor things to see if we get too much rainfall in a short period of time. So just gonna keep our eyes there. You see, leaving a little bit of lightning out toward that area. This lighter rain toward the Swanee River Valley right now, but some heavier rain toward Clay St. John. Not a flood watch there, but just gonna be watching. You even see a significant weather advisory up towards Daytonville there. That's because they've just seen quite a bit of rainfall in that vicinity in a relatively short period of time. So just gotta kind of be mindful of that here for sure as we're watching that situation. You can kind of just see what we're watching within the Doppler radar algorithms this afternoon here with some of this moisture in the picture. So again, just got to be watching for all of that. Let's go ahead now, popping back on camera here. We'll kind of see what's going on across the region as we look at some more information. You can kind of see here these different watches, these different advisories that we're tracking, and then the rainfall that is occurring right now. Again, a flash flood watch in play through Wednesday afternoon as we're looking toward that Tallahassee area. Then as we get over toward some of our other zones here, I know we're watching out toward Wednesday evening and toward parts of North Central Florida, Alachua County there. We're talking about this darker green color, and then as we get toward Levy, that's through Wednesday evening, not showing up right now. Sometimes our system, after they've kind of updated things and haven't done so in a little bit, it kind of takes that off. But again, just watching that. We're also watching a little bit of flash flooding potential up towards South Carolina here today. We have a little bit higher risk of some flash flooding as we look up that way. So let's go back over to our radar scope. We'll kind of give you an idea of what's going on there. A pretty nasty day there as well. I mean, it's kind of rainy if you're not getting that flooding potential. The rain, not too big of an impact overall, which is good when you're not getting too much of it. We've only seen a half an inch or so where I'm at towards dark, but again, other areas having issues. As we look up towards South Carolina now, you see a lime green polygon on the screen here as we're looking east of Florence as a flash flood warning that's in play here for areas around Marion. It looks like in South Carolina, northern Marion and south central Dillon counties until 7 o'clock. So even up that way, seeing that flooding potential kind of persist here. Definitely going to have to keep our eyes on that. We'll kind of continue to monitor what's going on there in terms of that risk here as we look ahead in toward the timeline. Just trying to see how things are kind of coming together here within the atmosphere. I mean, a pretty rainy pattern. We have a front here in the vicinity kind of stirring up some things as we talked about here with over the discussing, I guess you could say, here as we've looked back over the last few days, is kind of watching that potential for sure. And it's something to still continue to monitor because sometimes you can just get excessive rainfall in a certain spot. So you want to remember to turn around, don't drown. Let's go ahead now and come back on camera as we go ahead and show you some different things here in terms of that radar. One more time, you see what's happening there. Let's zoom to the other radar perspective now. We'll kind of go on over there to give you an idea of how things look in just a second. But first, looking outside the ward areas west is dark, you do see here that things look relatively tame. Just some of that later rain. The clouds aren't too ominous. They're a little bit ominous here, but again, not too ominous. So that's some good news here for sure. And then as we pop on up now our Earth computer, you can see here just that lighter rain toward I-75, I-10 there. A little bit heavier storminess as you get the update toward I-95 down toward Flagler County, for instance. Watching some of that as we're looking down there, and then you can even see over toward the Big Bend as well. It's something to watch for those folks. So let's go ahead now and pop on up the tropics because we're keeping our eyes on that picture here as things are starting to look a little more active. No imminent threats. That's the good news. But as we get on over here, you see not much further over and toward the Atlantic Basin, but I'll go ahead and kind of step on over now and you'll be able to see what's happening. We do have a system with a 20% chance of development here next 5 days. It's coming off Africa now, but it could be in this general area in about 5 days, and another system, 10% chance here. Not as concerned there. That one would recurve, it seems. This one right here, though, showing a little more westerly trajectory potentially here as we're looking ahead into toward that timeline. So it's something to kind of keep our eyes on here. Now, as we look at those storm names, you can see here Fred's the next one on the list here. So that's something to kind of be watching for here as we are looking ahead in toward the timeline. Fred Grace, the next two, if somehow both of those systems were to get named. Pretty not something that we're expecting to happen to get both of them named, but just kind of as you're looking ahead. And then we have Henry, Ida, Julian, Kate, Larry, Mindy, Nicholas there, Odette, Peter, Rose, Sam, Teresa, Victor, Wanda. So just something to kind of be mindful of as we're looking ahead in the timeline. It's hurricane season. We're always going to get going here in August based on climatology. It doesn't always happen like this, but the models here, the longer range models, are showing that increase in potential here in toward the Atlantic Basin. Things should start kind of adding on up. So as you see the next 7 days, that rainfall that is not tropically driven, we do have quite a bit of moisture here in the picture. You can see here as we are looking toward the Big Bend, still several more inches of rain possible. We just got to be cognizant of that fact. We've got those flood alerts, flood watches in play here. So you see in toward that lighter orange, for instance, 5+ inches still on average over the next 7 days. A lot of that even earlier on in toward the period. So we got to be keeping our eyes out for that. Let's go ahead and go on over now toward our other source here. So we would kind of get an idea of some of those rainfall estimates just in the last 12 hours or so. I know this can be kind of helpful just to show you where folks have been hardest hit here in the short term, I guess you could say. That's kind of just something to kind of help with maybe flash flood warnings, even to see who has had more antecedent rainfall here in the near term. Pretty similar color table here as we're looking. You can see south areas here of Taylor County, as well as even over toward part of Dixie and Levy, getting into quite a bit of rainfall right at the coast, right where we were showing you in that forecast there a moment ago. So looking there south across city, you see maybe 3-4 inches in that red and in that yellow, that mustard yellow, maybe 6+ inches right at the coast there as we're getting near areas there around that Dixie, that Levy County line, or excuse me, that Taylor Dixie County line. I apologize, that Taylor Dixie County line. So again, I just have to be kind of mindful here of how those amounts kind of add on up as we're looking. We'll go ahead and zoom back on out again and show you that there's still moisture around. And now let's go over toward that extended forecast here. I know you guys want to see this. It'll kind of give you an idea how to plan your next 7 days. And we now, as we're looking over here, even I'll step over to show that that first day of school here, folks, is coming into play for some of you. I know some of you already have seen that, but as we're looking here, some spot like Bradford School is going to have that right now. we have a 40% chance of rain as we're looking there at 92.74, so about average for this time of year. But as you're seeing earlier on in the period, you see 80%, 70, 60% chances of rain as temperatures starting to rise on up as we lose that cloud cover, as we lose those higher rain chances. So that'll be some good news here, but that's what you would generally expect here this time of year. As we talk about the weather pattern this time of year isn't really something unless you have a tropical system that's going to be too variable. I mean, we have the front end vicinity right now kind of changing things up some, but overall here, we're not seeing extreme temperature swings here or extreme swings really in toward those rain chances here, those storm chances, like maybe having a squall line one day and beautiful the next. It's not that time of year for that really. As you kind of seen as we're looking across our area, let's go ahead and go away from the graphics right now. See that radar once again, and now we're going to pop you over toward the FSU weather stem camera. You see some of the storms there in the vicinity of Tallahassee. So let's go ahead and look on over there right now. You can kind of see that. That tells the story nicely. In fact, as we're looking toward my alma mater there, it is a little bit stormy, so something they're having to kind of keep an eye out for. And then as we look over toward St. Augustine, you can see here some of that storminess in play as well as we're looking right toward the beach. I know we've had a report of a land spout there toward parts of Lafayette, part of that Swanee River Valley area there earlier on. So definitely something they were watching in toward that region. Not necessarily a tornado. I haven't seen the video, but just getting reports there in the chat session. Information relayed by WCTV TV in Tallahassee. Some type of spin there, maybe reaching the ground, weak type of spin in toward that vicinity. So there's something to kind of keep in mind. I know yesterday you had a situation where we had a tornado / water spout there right at the coast. So you just have to kind of be mindful here this time of year how things can kind of evolve. So that's just how the weather situation is here in toward Florida, in toward summertime. So let's go ahead now. Move away from our weather stem technology. See that radar one more time here. I think we've pretty much covered everything we need to. Again, as flood watch, flash flood watches in play here across some of our region. Still watching. I have to see if there's going to be anything in terms of maybe stronger storms developing. But when you have that cloud cover, temperatures down towards 78 degrees where I'm at right now, that kind of limits that severe potential. So that's the good news here, folks. Limiting that severe potential. But let's go over our radar scope once again here, folks. Just kind of see what's going on as we're seeing another vantage point here of the situation. You can kind of get an idea on how things are kind of shaping on up here across our area. So just trying to give you that viewpoint here. A lot of the storms east of 95, which is good, but there's some model data hinting at more storms to come into play here as we're looking maybe toward Levy or Marion later on. Just have to wait and see. The models haven't handled things the best, but they have given us a general idea of some of the trends here across the region. So we'll be following things, not putting out those actual flood warnings if they're more just that aerial type, because that's something that is generally for rainfall that's falling at a lower rainfall rate. But as we deal with flash flood warnings, that's when we have more concern, because that means the water is rapidly falling, rapidly rising, and that's a bigger danger. Those actually go off on weather radios, and then that's when we post about them and or cut in. Sometimes if we have just regular flood warning toward Bradford, where I'm at, things like that, we'll post about that potential as well. But in general, for our area, just want to clarify and make sure you guys understand that here as we're watching the situation. I think that pretty much does it for this Tuesday here. I'll be back on your Wednesday with the latest weather information from the Weather Center. So for now, thanks so much for tuning in, and have a great night.